right, let's talk through another real-world example of lifecycle marketing in action using our friends at Quick Business Resolutions up in Spokane, Washington. So Quick Business Resolutions, or QBR as I'll be calling them, is a virtual assistant agency. So they help other small businesses with any number of tasks, right? From general administrative tasks to copy or graphic design or web design, or facilitating and managing their Infusionsoft or their Keap accounts, right? So QBR and their founder, Codi, they're familiar with lifecycle marketing, right? It wasn't how they designed their business, but over time they have learned this framework and they have applied it several times to make incremental improvements to how they operate their business and how they serve their customers, right? So I want to talk through 3 iterations as it pertains to how things have changed in terms of, the experience that they're offering and what they have designed for their customers. Okay, so like many businesses, the first version of their lifecycle marketing strategy wasn't very strategic. It was just sort of what happened for them. So most of their leads came from referrals, and the first step was those referrals would use the Contact Us form on their website to request more information, right? And then from there, they would follow up with this client and they would book a discovery call. The discovery call, if it went successfully, would lead to a proposal, which was the offer that they were making. And then that client would sign it and would begin the onboarding process where they would be assigned an account manager who's collecting information and helping set up the process that QBR will use to fulfill on whatever the services were that were agreed upon in that discovery call and that proposal, right? And then there would be a survey after X number of months to check in with that client and see how things are going, right? This was largely how their business ran, and because they did a good job, they provide a high level of service, their customers would naturally refer more people, filling that cycle again, right? So this was how QBR grew for several years, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, right? But what Codi, the founder, realized was that referrals, it was as valuable as those are, it's not a predictable source of leads, it's not a reliable source of leads, and it's not one that she ultimately controls. So they used the lifecycle marketing framework to kind of analyze what do we have in each of these stages, where do we have gaps, and where are we vulnerable? And she realized that one big gap was up front. They weren't in control of their own traffic. They didn't have a lever that they could pull to produce more leads, which would ultimately produce more customers if they were having a slow month with regards to the referrals. So they spun up a content marketing muscle as well. They began posting more regularly on their blog and on their social channels and creating a bit more of a reach there in terms of eyeballs on their content that would be led to the various opt-ins on their website, which was primarily the Contact Us form, right? In addition to the content marketing, Codi also formalized the way that they request referrals. So initially they were just hoping that people would refer, and they found that that was their most productive source of leads. So they thought, why don't we get more intentional about it? So all the way on the other end of the lifecycle marketing spectrum in the multiply stage, they added a step after their initial survey to just ask, do you know anyone else that we could serve, right? And this simple tactic multiplied the number of referrals they were getting because, of course, many of their satisfied customers would love to create the same service for another business that they know or turn them on to a resource that has earned their trust. But instead of relying on these individuals to do that on their own, they started inviting it. They started asking it and creating a more intentional loop for those referrals. Another addition that they made to their customer experience was adding automation from the point of the Contact Us form, from the point of that initial opt-in to the point of the discovery call, and from the point of the discovery call to the point of the proposal, and then from the proposal being sent to the point of it being accepted, right? So those milestones were initially lily pads, right? Somebody would submit one form and then book their discovery call, and then they would get the proposal, and then they would ultimately sign it, but there wasn't a whole lot happening in between. So QBR designed automation to help bridge that gap, to make sure that that experience was guided and that the pathway between those milestones was paved so that as many contacts as possible would make it from one to the next in a way that made them feel supported, made them feel guided, and made them feel confident in the process. So once a client signs a proposal, they move from the convert stage into the deliver and the impress stages of lifecycle marketing. And QBR has designed a pretty intricate onboarding process for that initial window, which helps collect information about the client. It gets the login credentials, and it starts the process of delivering whatever the service is that QBR has signed up for. And as far as the impress stage goes, QBR also has an internal task created to mail them a thank you card, a handwritten thank you card, written by the person who will be their primary point of contact. So it helps forge that connection and adds an element of personal touch, right? So that's all fine, that's well and good. But Codi identified there was an opportunity here to do more. There was an opportunity to use automation throughout that client's experience to help introduce them to other services that QBR has. Because most people come to them for one thing or for two things, but they don't realize the range of services that QBR is capable of offering. So what they did was they built an automated campaign that delivers case studies highlighting different services that QBR offers in case they are a fit for this client, right? So this does two things for them. Number one, it helps the client expand the way they're thinking about QBR. It opens up ideas for other opportunities that they might be able to use QBR to do for their business. So it enriches the value of that relationship. And the second thing it does is it drives up the actual customer lifetime value for QBR, right? If this client is exposed to other services and they are interested in them or it's a fit for them, it gives them the opportunity to have a sales conversation, to revisit that contract, and to add additional services to the suite of offerings that they have for that particular individual. So as you guys know, lifecycle marketing is an iterative process, right? It's not something that you just do once and then you move on from. It is a lens that you will use to continually revisit and review your existing reality and find those ways to improve it. So Codi knows that, and she is constantly reviewing her existing reality, and I want to highlight a couple of improvements that she is either already making or has plans to add in the future. So one is a virtual course that she has offered, right? So up front, I believe they have a handful of lead magnets, and they also have their Contact Us form, but they wanted a more formal offering. And so they built a virtual course all about finding, hiring, and managing a virtual assistant. They found that these were questions they were fielding very regularly, and some of their most popular content were on these topics. So rather than have the same conversations over and over again, they designed a course that will help answer those questions to either empower those people to go find their own virtual assistant, or to build the trust and rapport that is required to work with QBR in the first place. So if you recall in an earlier module, we talked about the collect lead stage, and I mentioned that I take issue with that phrase, collect leads, because I think it is not wrong, but incomplete. And the way I expanded on that was that I think you should also be creating your own customers. You can create the customers who are the best fit to work with you. So this course that's all about finding, hiring, and managing virtual assistants, it empowers the small business owner to do just that. And it builds the relationship with QBR so that if those people decide, yeah, I am ready to look for a virtual assistant and I have plans for how I'm going to use them in my business, naturally they're going to think of QBR. So it creates the customers for whom QBR is already the best fit. I love the concept of this course because it takes the conversations that Codi and her team were already having and it packages them up into a video format, one that can be automated and people can consume at their own pace. So if an anonymous consumer is following them on social media and is concerned about X, Y, or Z, or doesn't understand some component of working with a virtual assistant, all of their social threads and all of their content can lead people to this course, and they enter the course curious, and they come out convicted. They come out knowing that they need a virtual assistant, knowing how they're going to use that virtual assistant, and having their doubts and their fears or any objections they may have held systematically diffused. So it prepares people for that discovery call so that it shortens the window between the offer and ultimately getting that client into the onboarding stage. All right, so the next change that Codi and her team are looking at implementing is adding an extra level of touch or white glove experience to that impress section of lifecycle marketing. So within the Create Fans area, they already have their onboarding experience and they have a handwritten thank you card, right? Which is a nice personal touch. It starts that connection with the client and their account manager. and it sets the tone for the relationship, right? So that is their first version of lifecycle marketing, and it's working just fine. But as you know, lifecycle marketing is iterative, so you can constantly revisit those different sections and look for ways to level up. So one thing they're considering at this point is sending a welcome gift. So something that is personalized to that contact or to their industry, or sending a gift basket of some sort. Now, if you know that your customer lifetime value is $50, if you only earn $50 from a client, then you can't very well send a $100 gift basket, right? But for QBR, they know that their customer lifetime value is much higher. So they can allocate a certain percentage of that budget towards some sort of onboarding gift that really sets the stage and impresses the client from the get-go. You might also consider that the way that you onboard someone, the initial interaction you have with them, is also going to affect the longevity of that client, how long you get to work with them. So if these are clients that are on retainer, if we can do something in that initial onboarding window, what effect will it have on the lifetime value of that customer, right? If an average customer stays with QBR for 6 months or for a year, well, how does that change if we level up that initial onboarding experience? Does something like a gift basket at the end of month 1 extend their customer lifetime value by 3 months? And if it does, well, then the cost that you spend on that basket is going to be offset by the additional customer lifetime value you get out of those extra 3 months. And this simple back of the napkin math is an easy way to look at and justify those extra things that you might be questioning as to, is it really necessary, right? And then one more layer to this is considering how likely are my clients to make referrals, right? If referrals are QBR's best source of leads, well, what percentage of our customers are referring to us? And if we can level up our initial onboarding experience, how will that affect referrals, right? Will people be more likely to refer, or are the people who are already referring more likely to make more referrals, right? To refer more often, right? So these are all considerations to take when thinking about investing in your existing customer experience. I highlight that because I know that in marketing and in entrepreneurship in general, there is a disproportionate focus on the front end of that customer journey, all of the landing pages and opt-ins and lead magnets, right? Those are all valuable. But I want to underscore the merit and the return that you can get from investing in your existing customer experience, because when you get to that final stage, the multiply stage, this is how people shortcut that onboarding process or that lead capture process and jump right in with some inherent trust that have an accelerated pathway to the point of becoming customers as well. So that's it, guys. I wanted to highlight this example from QBR because I think it shows a great job or a good example of how this is an iterative process, right? We've taken the initial customer experience that was created, which was sort of their default. We've made it more intentional. We've filled in those additional gaps, and they have designs for how they hope to make continued improvements moving forward.